this morning. So let me talk about today's topic, how to thrive in the digital, and I call it deluge, okay? Because I think it really is. So I've got some figures up here. I'm not going to read them. There's a couple that I think are very important. So if you can't read it from the back, so every single day, 4.8 billion interactions on Facebook, 1.3 billion smartphone apps downloaded, 16 billion texts sent, 5.9 billion Google searches made, 2.3 billion posts, 500 million tweets. So there are now more tweets per day than there are books in the world. Think about that for a minute. 300 billion emails sent. And you know, you sit back, I don't know about you, but I sit back and it's a fire hose. It's a fire hose. And as a business executive, you need to decipher which of those digital activities are worth my attention and which I simply have to let go. And you have to determine how best to gather, how best to organize, how best to analyze, and how best to really utilize and leverage and exploit this deluge of digital information. Because at the end of the day, your goal, as I put it in red down the bottom, is to capture and retain these customers who are also awash in the digital sea. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I sit back, I deal with a lot of very senior executives. They don't have time to be overwhelmed in a digital sea. They just want to know, tell me what I should do, Bart. What is the implication? And that's what we get paid to do, right, as business people. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I sat back about 8 months ago. This book was published, I think, in April of last year. I'm writing my new book. I'm going to be on digital strategy. And the reason I'm writing the next book is for this very topic. So given this, what does that mean as a business executive? And why bother? Because I always like the why bother test. Why bother with CRM? It's not for everybody. Why bother with social? It's not for everybody. Why bother with digital strategy? It's not for everybody. But if it's relevant and you can tell me why bother, and that's what I do with a lot of senior executives, tell them why bother, then you pass the mustard test and we're willing to talk a little further. So why bother? Because 70% of 16 to 18-year-olds in this country, I don't know about your countries, buy digitally, and this evolution, or revolution, is in its infancy. So think about it. 16 to 18 years old, they're just breaking into the workforce, maybe not even, they're still in college, most of them, or even high school. 70% die digitally. It's the way they do business. So I was with my niece several weeks ago, and she said to me, that she's 18. She said, Uncle Bart, when you were my age, what was your favorite app? And I said, sweetheart, I wasn't around in those days. 95%, now this is another quote that I think is important about why bother. 95% of knowledge workers carry a very powerful PC in their pocket. So this has really changed the world, right? 95 carry it. 70% of 16 to 18-year-olds digitally connect on an ongoing basis. So if you're a company in B2B, if you're a company in B2C, if you're in a company B2B2C, and you're not on top of this game, where will you be in 3 years? Let me say it differently. If your competitor is on top of this game and you're not, who wins? It's that important. Okay, so why bother? I just want to tell you a couple of stories here. So for me anyhow, the whole concept behind digital strategist is it says gather the digital information about your customers, and I'll show you lots of ways of sources, analyze it, derive actionable insights, and then the nice thing, and I'm not a technology guy, but I have to acknowledge when technology is valuable, deploy some of the new digital tools, and there are lots of them, to customize and to optimize each individual customer experience. By channel, right product, right time, right consumer. And enhancing digital engagement, I'm being very careful there. I didn't say enhance customer experience. I said enhance customer engagement. Because the experience is only a part of it. You'll see in a minute why. And it's a very important part of it. But we want to not only have a good experience, we want to keep that engagement strong over the long term. And that's those continual moments of wow that Disney talked about. So in my little brain here, I sat back and said, well, I think that if we had a good, holistic digital strategy, that's your plan, then we can drop down to the tactical side and look at some of the technologies and best practices, particularly in process, that will enable for the execution.